Hello, awesomers. It's me. It's your old buddy, Steve Simonson, and here we are yet again. I'm glad you're here today because today I've got a special announcement. Now, this is known to a few folks around me, a couple of insiders, and maybe then some. But today is Retirement 2.0, everybody. Today is the day that I announced to you that I'm retiring. Now, this is not the first time I've tried to retire. This is the second time I've tried to retire. And I call it Retirement 2.0 because I'm trying to work the bugs out of the first retirement. So if you'll indulge me, my first retirement began in 2012. It also ended at the end of 2012. But at the beginning of 2012, I said, this is going to be great. I'm going to retire. Done with the rat race, blah, blah, blah. I still had a company or so that I owned at the time, but I withdrew from day-to-day operations. I withdrew from kind of all operational responsibility, and I just started going on vacation. And you guys can find past archives where I talk about that experience, but let's just say it was not awesomer. It was, I hated it. Initially, it was great, and I enjoyed the free time. I enjoyed the time I spent with my family. There's parts of it that were delightful, but the net effect was a negative outcome for me. I did not like it, and I was not happy or fulfilled. So I stopped doing it, stopped being retired, and kind of went back in with quite a heavy, maybe even overcompensation, at the end of 2012, early 2013. Which brings us here forward another decade or so. So what does Retirement 2.0 look like, you may be wondering? And essentially, it is me saying, I'm not going to do stuff I don't want to do. I'm going to do everything I can to eliminate the things that I don't like to do to the largest extent I can, and on the fastest basis that is reasonable or, let's say, feasible. Understanding the contextual realities of some of these different businesses that I'm involved in. So Retirement 2.0, number one, is not as abrupt as 1.0. That's going to make a bit of a difference. And then Retirement 2.0 is also not a full disengagement. So Retirement 2.0 means instead of me working, 60 to 80 hours a week, depends on the time of year, I'm going to work 25 to 35 hours a week, which a lot of people would just call a regular life, a regular job life balance. I love to do certain kinds of work. In fact, it's not work. I love to create. I love to build. I love to hang out with entrepreneurs. And those are the things that I want to focus on. So Retirement 2.0 is essentially me saying, I want to work less on the selling mountains of stuff, which has been, me directly selling mountains of stuff or through my subsidiaries. That's less important to me than the network effect of other businesses having a positive impact as a potential result of my involvement with them on some level. Now, that could be a imagination connection, like, they listened to this podcast, they got something out of it, and that was valuable to them, and their business had some positive net effect as a result of that. That would be cool. Whether it's imagined or real, I like to hope that is real. Another type of network effect could be, hey, I'm working on the businesses that I have that are kind of B2B focused, like Parsimony.com, which is, basically a business operating software. Every time I see a business kind of get up and going on Parsimony, and I should point out that this could include businesses that are of any size, from, $2 to $5 million enterprises, which are exciting and fun and growing rapidly, to, well over $200 million enterprises that are big and complex and stuck in some way, and the system helps them, kind of get unstuck and achieve their higher potential, whether that potential is efficiency or profits or growth or whatever matters to that particular enterprise. The business operating system becomes a platform to launch all of the relevant business apps to help you manage and run your business. We can talk more about that in the future. Anyway, so the headline, Retirement 2.0, it's here. There's no exact hard date of it, but already this year, I've taken measures to exit some of the physical products businesses that exist in my world. Much of that is already completed. On a couple of the larger complex ones, the closings will not happen immediately, or if they have happened, I have some obligation to remain, let's say, accessible during the next 12 to 18 months, depending on the role and the size and complexity of the company. So some are kind of clean exits, in and out, nobody gets hurt. There's a couple that the companies just weren't quite big enough, and I didn't feel like screwing around with them. And so I'll kind of wind those things down a little bit. Others that never, ideas that were nascent and not quite off the ground, we'll just put those on ice. Maybe they'll be thawed later, maybe they won't. And then there are more complex deals that are being finalized. And if they're not already closed, they will close in the next, let's say, quarter. And so I'll be spending a fair amount of time on getting those logistical elements and deal details done. But my vision really is that I want to go from selling so many widgets, and just think of it as like mountains of widgets. I never have added up the total tonnage that we've shipped, or the amount of products that we've moved from here to there, but it's substantial. We used to keep track of it on one of the Parsimony scoreboards on kind of our dashboard, the total amount of this or the total amount of that. But in many ways, after you hit certain numbers, it's kind of like the old McDonald's signage that used to say, over 1 billion served, and that one now over 2 billion served, and then later they just switch, over billions and billions served, right? Because the numbers become less and less meaningful, less and less impactful to go, oh, you passed this additional milestone, you've set some new record that is both arbitrary and not as meaningful as it was when you were first putting up some numbers. Like the excitement of, I wonder if this business can ever do $1 million a year. That's exciting. Then you say, I wonder if this business can ever do $1 million in a month. That would be, that would be something. And then you say to yourself, can we have $1 million day over here? Right? There's some businesses that can achieve kind of crazy numbers. Maybe it's a seasonal cyclical business. Maybe it's just kind of a growing, that's where you're headed to kind of business. And all of those are fun. Can you do 2 million a day? And then at what point do you stop asking that question, right? For me, those are all now academic and not that interesting. Mostly because I don't find as much joy in selling stuff as I used to. I like to make stuff and create stuff. I enjoy watching some new design come to life and get into the market and validate itself vis-a-vis sales. That still has some, modest interest, but not nearly what it used to. And so what's my point? Essentially, my point is Retirement 2.0 means I'm shifting my focus off of selling stuff and into network effect businesses. So anything that I do will largely be measured against, does this help an entrepreneur, and does this potential entrepreneurial endeavor allow them to go forth and prosper in the world? So things like Empowery or Parsimony or Product Savants or any of these types of efforts that are oriented towards helping others, that is going to be certainly a part of my future. And I can kind of commit less hours to that than maybe more hours than I was in my preceding life, but less hours cumulatively. And there it's also more fulfilling hours to me, right? If I see an entrepreneur go succeed because of this help that they got from Empowery, or this product they got from Product Savants, or this software solution they got from Parsimony, that makes me feel more fulfilled than it does selling another, container, 10 containers, 100 containers. The second bit is I'm going to focus on our things that I refer to as kind of knowledge share, knowledge transfers. So this could take different forms. It could take the forms of sourcing trips, as I've done in the past. I've started doing sourcing trips back in 2002, where I would take people with me. And largely those were focused on China, but not exclusively. We went to Germany and Poland and, many other places over the years. But so they may include sourcing trips. They may include me showing up at conferences and speaking and trying to share some of my experiences. Those are knowledge share and transfer missions that I'll try to maintain some reasonable level of engagement in. I'm certainly, I like hanging out with entrepreneurs, and I like to see problems that appear to be so painful and so overwhelming. And in some cases, they're what we call impossible problems until somebody goes, oh, just do this. And then suddenly that impossible problem is now not even a problem. It's just, some former obstacle that was overcome. So to the extent that I can be helpful in knowledge share and transfer, I will do so. It may also take the form of one or more master classes that I'll just record and try to almost, think of it like my ability to leave behind something. So I've had the Awesomers podcast, obviously recording some content, and that will continue to evolve and probably take a more frequent part of my life, therefore giving you a little more frequency in different episode updates. That may also take the form of some courses or master classes at Catalyst 88, because I'm asked an awful lot about certain details and about certain topics that I will tend to give, large strategic oversights to, but that sometimes lacks actionable steps, or at least what I know the actionable steps are. I may not have explicitly laid those out, or the inferences are not big enough that you're drawing those down. And so having a more tactical handoff of that knowledge transfer may be something that I choose to do. And it'll just really based, completely on demand. We've got an idea where I take the classroom stuff that we would teach to our executives. It's like a two-year course, by the way, where we basically say, here's how you become an executive. And this is the types of things you need to learn. Everything from, strategic vision making, like how do you decide where we're going based on values and beliefs and so forth, all the way down to here's how you hire a team, and here's why you do it this way, and here's why it's harder up front but better long term, and here's why you do this, and here's why you do that. So that may take some shape of form in its future. And for those of you who are of a certain age or genre, that to understand kind of the Superman Fortress of Solitude, like I would love to have enough knowledge out there that somebody can just go click some buttons and old Steve shows up and, at least shares some opinions, experiences, and then hopefully you guys can take those and make some value and make some use out of them. Remember that not all advice is something that you can use immediately. The first time you hear it, it may not make sense, but over time you may connect dots that you haven't connected before. And that's part of the purpose of having this accessible. And we'll put a little price on it and make sure there's some Scooby snacks floating around, because even in retirement, old Steve still needs an ice cream cone. The final thing I'll focus on is what I like to call the Chairman Circle. Now, this will probably be managed through the Catalyst 88 business unit that I have. And essentially, the Chairman Circle is a program that is kind of making a reappearance. And it's essentially where I say, and I've done this in the past on a very limited basis, and I'll maintain that kind of very limited concept, but where I say to people, yes, more than no. And the answer to the question may be yes, but you don't know what the question is. The question that they often ask me is, hey, Steve, can you help me? Will you mentor me? Will you help my company? Will you jump on my board of directors? Will you help my company grow? Like most like 99.9% of the time, I have to say no because I just simply haven't had the time or capacity. So in very limited engagements, I will help people. The Chairman Circle program on Catalyst 88 will be where I say, I'll be on your board. I will, share some direction. Most of it won't be me coming in and telling people, here's what to do. I will just come in and ask questions until the vision, beliefs, and direction become clear. And then I'll challenge additional things about process and financing and blah, blah, blah for the companies that kind of meet a certain criteria. And just for clarity, Steve's not, a free resource at all times. Like I volunteer in Powery and here on Awesomers. This is not a compensated sort of thing, at least at this stage. But for a Catalyst 88 Chairman Circle, I'll say, well, here's some Scooby snack you got to pay to keep the attention of me, and I'll have a couple support people probably helping me. And then here's a little percentage of your company that we're going to march towards some exit plan, whether that's you exiting or me exiting or both of us exiting. That could take different shapes, but those will be on a very limited basis. It'll be only people I really think we have a connection and I really think I can help, and that it has a long-term upside, that network effect I spoke of earlier, for your business or for the business in question. So things that are out are things like selling mountains of stuff. I just don't get the thrill for selling, more and more containers of stuff. Now, it doesn't mean we don't have a bunch of stuff still moving and those responsibilities don't just disappear. But to my teams, right, all of those teams are well entrenched and well understood. All of those people in those big kind of companies, you already know your outcomes if I've sold the company or I'm selling the company. And for those who are still working for me, who happen to be hearing this for the first time, if you're in the Skunk Works division, network effect side of the business, nothing will change. We'll just continue to hire people and continue to go about our business. So less of that selling mountains of stuff and doing stuff that I don't like to do. Out of the largely out of the day-to-day grind stuff. For the last few years, I've just spent constant time on logistics and pains and geopolitics and things like that. And it's not that those things are going away. Obviously, logistics is more predictable from a cost perspective, but China's lockdowns remain a global consternation. There are plenty of things in geopolitics that can change or modify how we should do business. I'll have to stay plugged in on some level, but hopefully not at the same level. So retirement 2.0, more focus on stuff I like, less focus stuff on I don't like. And ultimately, over the next 12 to 18 months, I'll get out of most of the businesses where I'm selling stuff, and have done already. Just to be clear, most of that work already happened in 2022. Most of those deals have either closed or are closing. And I've got one or two additional pieces of that, especially for the big complex stuff, that will proceed into next year. And my responsibilities will extend a little longer because these are not, this is not like dropping off the keys to a car and going, hey, good luck to you, enjoy your time out on the road. There's more to it than that. So it'll take a little bit of time to phase some of that stuff out of, my life completely, I suppose. But in terms of my day-to-day schedule, that will start having impact in Q1 next year. So there it is, everybody. Retirement 2.0. It's underway. Mark it down on your calendar. Now you know. And I thank you for listening and indulging me in this. I would highly encourage you to go ahead and click on the subscribe and the little notification bell and that sort of thing on whatever you're listening to, because we're going to start releasing more podcasts and other things that are, we hope, helpful to the entrepreneurial community, particularly entrepreneurs in e-commerce. That's where I like to focus. But I've dealt with so many entrepreneurial segments in my time, from the manufacturing and distribution and even the SaaS stuff. I have many interests. But I definitely love e-commerce, and I love entrepreneurs in general. So thanks again, everybody. We'll see you next time. Retirement 2.0 starts now.